guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm coming with a book review. It's something a little bit different on my channel. I know my channel is a legal channel, but this is a book that I was excited to hear that it was coming out, and so pretty much the book is um the Coldest Winter Ever sequel, Life After Death, Winter Santiago story. Um, and pretty much, um, if you know about like the whole Coldest Winter Ever and that, if you're into those type of books, you'll know the hype of this book. But if you're not, I'll give you a quick synopsis of like the Coldest Winter Ever, right? So the Coldest Winter Ever is a book based on a teenage girl. Her name is Winter Santiago, and her father is Santiago, Ricky Santiago. And pretty much Ricky Santiago is like a big drug dealer in Brooklyn, and he treats the women in his life well. Like, they were pampered. Winter was raised to be like, to have that materialistic mindset. Winter was raised on like a very materialistic way. So, Winter doesn't value religion. Winter doesn't have much empathy. You know what I mean? Winter is very much that beat, that girl. You know what I mean? She's the it girl. She's considered she considers herself an it girl, because she's always laced out in the latest designer. She always has her hair done. She always has herself put together. She's pretty vain in that way. So pretty much what happens in the book is Ricky Santiago gets sent to jail. Pretty much the whole Santiago empire falls down. It's like they were the royalty of Brooklyn, and then Ricky Santiago gets locked up, gets sent to jail, and it's like everything falls down. Winter goes into foster care. She breaks out of foster care. She starts like messing around with all these dudes that she thinks has money so that she could upkeep her lifestyle, that materialistic lifestyle. Ultimately, what ends up happening to Winter at the end of the Coldest Winter Ever is she gets into a fight with one of her best friends. The girl slashes her face, and Winter's dealing with a drug dealer at the time, who she was going on like to do a drop. So you would say like she was going to do a drop with him. So there was a bunch of drugs in his car. Winter gets into a fight with her best friend. He like walks off like he's not even with her, and Winter ends up going to jail for his drugs. So the Coldest Winter Ever ends like that. Winter is going to jail. Now, the Coldest Winter Ever. So the Coldest Winter Ever sequel came out this month, March. So it's been 20 years since an update, well, a Coldest Winter Ever sequel. So it's been 20 years. So it's like so pretty much if you watch Sister Souljah's interview on the Breakfast Club, she explained that the reason why she did that was because pretty much she wanted it to feel real to the readers. She didn't want to come out with a book 2 or 3 years later with Winter out of jail, and in the book she's serving like a whole 15-year bid. So she did that so that it felt real. So now it's like in the Coldest Winter Ever sequel, Winter's getting out of jail. But in between the Coldest Winter Ever and the sequel, there was Sister Souljah came out with a couple of other books on other characters in the Coldest Winter Ever. So Winter has a sister, Portia. So um, she came out with her latest book, like in regards to the Coldest Winter Ever, was the Portia Santiago story, A Deeper Love Inside. That's an amazing book as well. I would suggest that. And that's pretty much, explaining like Portia's view of how like she grew up. Because, Winter grew up materialistic. Portia was young at the time when the Winter was going out doing everything. So Portia's view and how Portia was affected by, everything that happened with her father and also her mother. In the Coldest Winter Ever, her mother ended up getting shot, and she ended up dealing in drugs. And yeah, that's, well, if you read it, you'll understand. And then so in the Coldest Winter Ever, there's a guy, Midnight, who is pretty much Ricky Santiago, Winter's father's like right hand man, pretty much. And Winter is like obsessed with him, but he doesn't even give Winter, like, he looks out for Winter as far as because of his loyalty to her father. But as far as like anything past that, he doesn't even give Winter the time of day. But Winter is like, that is the love of her life. Like, she thinks that's the love of her life. That's the man who she is ultimately gonna end up with. But if in order to, I personally feel, in order to like fully get what is going on in this Coldest Winter Ever sequel, I would suggest to read the books in between. So Midnight, just to understand why Midnight never gave Winter the time of day, and to understand what's going on with Midnight in this book. So Midnight, the meaning of love, Midnight, the meaning of love, Midnight 2, and then Midnight 3, a moment of silence. So I would suggest reading that, especially if you want to have like if you're excited, especially if you're excited for this sequel, and then to not be like disappointed, because I feel, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so yeah, so first I would suggest reading the Midnight, A Meaning of Love, A Moment of Silence, and then Portia's story, A Deeper Love Inside. Read all of those, or read all of those. Okay, so now let's get into the actual book. So my review of the book overall. Okay, well, first I read the audiobook, and the audiobook is read by Nia Long, and pretty much from reading from listening to Sister Souljah's interview that she did on the Breakfast Club when she was speaking about the book, she stated that when she thinks of Winter's voice, Nia Long was a perfect fit for Winter. How do I feel about that? I wouldn't have pictured Nia Long as Winter. You know what I mean? From listening to the audio, there was parts of so me being a girl from New York, I was thinking to hear like more of a thicker New York accent in, like, from Winter. You know what I mean? Like a very thick New York accent from Winter. And I didn't feel like Nia Long had that. So that's one thing that kind of like, when I was reading the book, I listening to the book, I noticed that like this isn't how I picture hearing Winter, especially being that, like, they emphasize that she's from Brooklyn, New York. So like, where's that Brooklyn accent? I don't hear it. But I mean, this is Sister Soldier's book, um, so overall, I think Sister Souljah is an amazing writer. Um, the thing about Sister Soldier's book, right? You don't really ever get like a full closure um in her books. So like in Winter and well, you don't, I wouldn't say a full closure. You do get a full closure. You don't get like a clear understanding of the relationships between everyone, or like how like when you're reading a book and you want to know, okay, so how does this person feel, how does that person feel, you don't get everybody's viewpoints. um Something that kind of irritates me, but maybe she does it that way because she has other stuff planned in the pipeline. But like, so like if you read The Coldest Winter Ever, it's like it ends up with Winter going to jail, Winter and her dad's in jail, and then you got the twins, her two twin sisters is out, and Portia, and they're all in foster care, and then her mom's on drugs. So it's like, and then midnight just disappears, and then it's like she started in the Midnight book, she started to connect how Midnight came into the scene and why he is the way he is, why he's so secretive and mysterious. It started to like come together. And then in the Portia Santiago story, is you see like Portia's viewpoint and you see how she viewed things. But so in so okay. So in this particular book, I loved the way it ended. I loved the clarity of how it ended. Um, Throughout the whole book, I was praying. I was praying. I was praying. I was like, why? I was like, why? I was like, dang, like all these years just for her to end up dying. Like, you know what I mean? We waited all these years just for her to end up dying, and now we're just hearing her story about her life after death. Like, this is a totally different story from The Coldest Winter Ever, which after reading Sister Soldier's book, she said that she didn't want it to be a story where people could predict kind of what was going to happen, but because I'm sure everybody was like, yeah, so it's gonna pretty much be a book about Winter getting out, being on top, doing the same thing as she's doing, maybe growing up, having kids of her own. So I'm sure she didn't want to make it a book like that, but I wish I wish, like, okay, so the whole thing about like Winter dying, I wish we could have saw more of like, we saw a little, like, so Winter was able to see bits and pieces of what was going on. So she saw who killed her, and she saw, oh dang, I might have gave it away, but so she was able to see who killed her. She was able to see what's going on with Midnight and her dad. You know what I mean? But we weren't able to see like how the world was dealing with the Winter, you know, while she was, the last stop before the drop. So I feel like the story in itself, like the whole story, the way Sister Souljah wrote out how things happen when you die, and like, judgment, as far as like judgment, as far as you accepting and admitting and being truthful about the things that you did on earth. That whole story, and how Winter chose time and time again to lay with the devil, and how when you lay with the devil, you know things happen and stuff like that. I feel like that whole story was amazing. I loved that whole story. But as far as like for this book, it was kind of confusing because it's like, this is just a whole totally different story as far as for Winter. You know what I mean? This is like so a totally different story. And then it's all like what's going on after death. And it was like, it's kind of like a supernatural, like it was like a supernatural type of book. And it's like, that's not usually what you're used to as far as Sister Souljah. She said when writing this that she was aiming for something like that, so I could totally understand. But I do feel that it was a great story. So maybe if it was a different story, I would have enjoyed it more. But being that it was for the coldest winter ever, I was like, why is she doing this? But she's an amazing writer, though. I think she's an amazing writer. Um, all in all, I think it's worth. Like, if you're someone who was waiting for this book, and like, you were committed to this book. I'm sorry. If you're someone who was waiting for this book and you were committed to the Coldest Winter Ever series, and you were at midnight, the meaning of love, a moment of silence, a deeper love and stuff, like you've been keeping up, I feel like it's worth the read. So at least you see like what's going on, what happens, what could possibly happen in the end. I wouldn't say that if you only read The Coldest Winter Ever and you're looking forward to reading this book, and like, thinking that you're gonna get the same version of The Coldest Winter Ever, and it's just like a new, renewed, like updated version of what's going on in The Coldest Winter Ever, it's not that. It's totally different. It's totally different, but in a good way. I feel in a good way because it's like it's a new story to read. It's a new story. I don't think it was horrible, but I don't think it's if you're someone who was in love with The Coldest Winter Ever and you are in love with that story, it might not live up to your expectations. I wouldn't read this book thinking that you're gonna get A Coldest Winter Ever. But all in all, if I had to rate the book, I'll give it 6 out of 10 because because it is a good story and it is written well. The reason why I'll give it a 6 is one, because of the audio. I didn't really like the audio, and 2, because I feel like it kind of went on to be like a whole different type of. It made the whole Coldest Winter Ever series just that it made, because the Coldest Winter Ever kind of felt real, right? It felt real. Like this is stuff that actually could go on in the real world. The sequel feels very supernatural, and you can't really connect with it. It does make you think about like the things that you do on Earth. She puts like she's very she emphasizes the importance of God in this book. God and judgment, and things that you do on Earth will come back to haunt you in the judgment day. So that's kind of like a message that she does give us in this book. But yeah, that's kind of what I didn't like about it, because all the other books seem so real. Like in Portia's story, she had personality disorder kind of, and it's like people could relate to that, because it's like they go through stuff like that. This one kind of felt kind of out of touch in a way, but it is a good story. So yeah, I think either way, I don't think that you should pass the book up. I do think that if you have time, sit and read the book. You will get something out of it. It's not a waste. You will get something out of it. Especially as far as like, sitting and thinking about, there's gonna come a judgment day. So, thank you guys for listening to my review. I hope you enjoyed. I know my voice is kind of very mild, but I'm not a very animated person. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my review. Leave comments. Let me know how you feel about the book. What part was your favorite part? Oh, what part was my favorite part? The ending was my favorite part. Being able to see winter change. You did see a change in winter in the end. Being able to see winter change and to see the relationship between Winter and Portia. I really like, from reading A Deeper Love Inside, I really fell in love with Portia's character, because it used to be Winter. It used to be Winter's character that you really loved. And from reading the Portia story and Midnight, you realize that Winter's not that great. Winter's not that great of a person. And yeah, I fell in love with Portia and just her gentleness. So yeah, that was my favorite part, the ending, seeing like Portia and Winter's relationship, and I love that. And I wish we could have saw more of that in the book, and also like Winter and her dad's relationship. I wish we could have saw more of that in the book. I wish we could have saw Portia and her dad's relationship, the twin. I wish that we could have saw them all reunite, and I wish Winter would have been able to face Midnight, like in the real life, not in supernatural. It was a good book. It makes you want more, and I feel like I hope that's the next book we do get to see that from Sister Souljah, the relationships between the whole family and stuff like that. Yeah, so once again, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Yeah, tell me your favorite part of the book. What do you think about the book? What do you think about the other books? You know, let's talk, let's chat. I will be getting more back into my legal journey, because, you know, if some of you do follow me on Instagram, I am going to be taking it outside again for the 3rd time. Yay, fun! So yeah, I'm going to be getting back into stuff like that, and yeah, stick to it. I have a lot in store. Bye.